Bonjour and welcome to our French Tech On Air, our European video podcast series on business and technology. In Europe, La French Tech ecosystem is made of 27 communities that are connecting to the French tech startup scene and creating a bridge to the European tech movement. My name is Billy Yen. I am a board member of La French Tech Krakow. I'll be your host and moderator for today. Today, our guest is Walid Barsali, co-founder and CEO at Ballsquad. Walid, welcome.
Hi, Billy. Thank you for having me. Very excited about this interview.
It's my pleasure. So, Walid, you have an amazing journey and you contribute to the Polish startup scene. That's why it's our honor to have you today. Maybe for those of our audience who don't know about you or about Ball Squad, you can start to introduce yourself and your journey.
So let me try to not be too boring. I'll try to be as concise as possible. So about myself. So as you said, so I'm Walid. I'm French-Algerian, raised in Paris, moved around in the CE region, and ended up in Poland. I would say about 9 years ago, and started my entrepreneurship journey with Ball Squad about little over 4 years ago. And basically, in a nutshell, Ballsquad is the primary partner of public authorities across Poland to digitize the management of public facilities and to basically streamline and facilitate the access to the public facilities to help the public authorities to basically monetize them by offering them to the citizens. So it seems it can seem a little bit tough and complicated, but it's very rewarding journey, to be honest.
I can imagine. And how did you get this idea to start Ball Squad?
uh, yeah, that's an idea that came basically to me when I moved to Romania. So I was a student in Rouen where I was playing basketball in a high level, and that was, I would say, my first life where I was a basketball player for many years. And when I arrived to Romania for my
Wow.
studies to complete my bachelor at that time, I basically could access any public facility as long as I knew who to call and how to do that. And that was just for me a revolution in my head, because in France, you can do whatever you want, but you want access public facilities. You want access the gyms that are in the
Mhm.
schools or in the different sports centers, and they are all basically dedicated to associations and clubs. And in Romania, it was not the case. So I was basically started to wonder. I was wondering if it was the case in all the countries that were neighboring to Romania. And it turns out that yes, the whole CE region, so Central Eastern Europe, is basically having such a model where public assets, so public infrastructures, either they are a school, a university, a sports center, you name it, basically are all potentially available for the public. The only problem is that they are managed with pen and paper, and that makes it extremely difficult for
Mhm.
the public authorities to centralize those facilities under one tool, and then to be able to democratize the access and ease the access via a technological tool like a booking application for the citizens. So that's when the idea came, and that was back in 2012. And of course, it took me a few years to get myself into the working life and experiment the professional life and understand what I could do with that idea. And in 2018, then I kind of made a run for it. And 4 years later, fast forward, we are here and it's working, and we are developing right now across 7 cities and more to come in our pipeline.
Wow, that's really impressive. And actually, I may comment by saying that I believe that this mentality in, finding a way to reach your goal because, for instance, you needed to have access to these, I don't know, sport field or amenities. It's kind of French, no?
Yeah, it is, but it's like it was a bit frustrating. It came, I think, like all entrepreneurs that believe in what they do. It starts with a frustration. It always does, right? And for me, it was really the case because since I was 14, I was playing basketball and practicing basketball every day until, as I said, a pretty decent level for many years. So it was part of my DNA. to access sport facilities and to practice every day. So when that change in my life happened, so when I was 21 and I moved to Romania, I still had that need. And the frustration was that before in France, I never had to think about it because I was always part of some teams or some clubs that were allowing me that access. But then when I was on my own, is that how can I access those places and how can I adapt my life into a new environment that I'm not controlling? And so that came up, and I was like, okay, so maybe if I can solve it for myself, there is other people that's gonna require, that would appreciate the same type of easiness to access those facilities. And so that's how it built up, right? It went from a very simple thing, a frustration, and then building it up and arriving, yeah, to the moment where it's a running company and there is people working there, and every morning I'm waking up and I'm still amazed by it, yeah, by like how the hell this happened, yeah. So it's absolutely not something that is calculated, but I guess it just comes along the way.
I am also amazed by your journey. And I think that, that's why we're doing this, because we like to get inspired by amazing stories like this. And your passion fuel this, work, because obviously there's a lot of work. And I think that you need to have this passion to keep going, because it's not easy. And actually, it's a good transition to what I was wondering when you were talking a bit about your journey. You said that at the beginning in 2012, you started to think about it, and then you start to launch in 2018, and now in 2022 it's evolving. Can you tell us what were the milestone during this last decade actually?
Yeah, that's a damn decade. It's I have trouble to I really have a lot of trouble to admit that to myself that it's a decade. Now I'm old enough to talk about things that happened 10 years or 20 years ago, So yeah, I'm an old guy now.
Exactly.
So so yeah, the 10-year journey, I would say that, yeah, when I arrived in 2012 in Romania, and I basically noticed that, and I noticed that there is a possibility there that basically needs, it's a connector. I needed to create an ecosystem that could connect three different stakeholders. So the first stakeholder are the public authorities, that to make them understand that they have no visibility, no control over their own assets, and that those
Hmm.
assets are actually needed by the population, but they don't have the tools or the skills because it's not their job, to create a technological ecosystem that enables that access. So that was the
Yeah.
first stakeholder that we needed to understand the behavior and the mentality and what was their the most important aspect for them. The second one are the public infrastructures themselves, so the suppliers, the ones that have the facilities to be centralized, digitized, and monetized, right? So that's the same. That's another stakeholder with another mindset to understand. And the final one are basically guys like me, or any other person that wants to access those facilities. So it is three type of mindset to connect and three types of interest to connect into one ecosystem. So a young dude like me, when I was in when I was, yeah, 22 years old in 2012, uh, couldn't be able to make it happen and truly push it to what it is right now, because I didn't understand the market. I didn't understand those new markets I was in. I didn't understand exactly how those different stakeholders were interacting between each other. So I focused on basically building myself as a professional. To be honest, I didn't really care about the startup world, or I didn't even know what it was, to be honest, by then, at that time. So I just focused on building my personal professional life. So moved from Romania, moved a little bit around Czech Republic and so on for some time, tried to understand how those countries were working and did I feel good in it. And finally, I just choose to stay in Poland. And then in Poland, I had the chance to work and at the same time finish my master's and do an MBA at the same time. Then had the chance to move to Warsaw and take some managerial position in finance and business intelligence. And the last one was in as a sales manager in a finance company where I started to deal with, I would say, high profiles, right? Very like guys with wealthy people, let's say, right? And I was pretty young at that time. And then when you are able to look at them eye to eye and have those smart discussions, and then you take off from your shoulders, that pressure that, oh, those people are too high for you. then you start to see a path to create your own company, because you start to see how they behave, how they do things. And based on that, after a few years, in 20, I would say 17, more or less, when it started really to click, we decided to do a global, I would say a regional, sorry, market research about all the CE region countries that were under the same type of profile as Poland. And we discovered precisely, because back then we didn't have that much data as we have today, nowadays. So we basically discovered that the model was applicable to all those countries, as long as we were flexible enough with our technology and trying to adapt ourselves to the public authorities and not the other way around, right? And so yeah, it took some time. We found our co-founders in Ukraine, which are our technological partner, that jumped on board with us in 2018. We created the company together, and I would say that we spent 2 full years really trying to understand what we were doing and how we could basically actually support the market and take that project to the next step. And yeah, after some time, we got some successes. And when COVID hit us, that was a stop of our operation for a few months, because we deal with public assets. So as long as they are closed, we have no more business, right? That's as simple as that. And so, but it was actually a blessing in disguise, to be honest, because as soon as COVID hit, everything closed down, and the public authorities with whom we were talking for 2 years prior to the COVID were thinking of us like as being a nice to have. And as soon as COVID hit, then we became a must have, because we are a digitalization tool. So it means that from that point on, you could access the facilities without dealing with anyone, just with booking them. The facilities could keep making money and just opening the facilities for the specific people coming, and be in control of who is there at what moment, and cover all that aspect of that COVID brought and those changes of behaviors. Yeah, absolutely. So it took some time, it took some processes, but yeah, we made it, and that's how we arrived to 10 years, from 2012 to this point. Yeah.
That's a nice journey, and we'll keep following you. And I hope the audience can check also on your social media and website how you are doing. And if they need any facility, they know where to find you. To go further on this topic, actually, I have a few questions. Every time you're actually telling the story, I have a lot of questions, but I try to focus on the one that are the most crucial.
Mm.
Maybe the first one you mentioned earlier. You said that at some point you found your technological partner in Ukraine. How did it work? How the technology helped you to grow this business?
We are by default a high tech company. So basically, what we do, we create an ecosystem where we can plug those three stakeholders together. So public authorities, public facilities, and citizens, right? So this, you cannot do it with pen and paper. And the way it's managed nowadays, it is pen and paper and phone. I mean, until us, right? So the whole process was, okay, we know what we want to do. We know potentially how to do it or how to start doing it, but we do not have the competences to create the technological tool and to go, I would say, chase after fundraising to just build a tool that would leave us dependent on this external provider, right? So the main
Yeah.
focus was, let's find a technological partner. So most what we were targeting were either a couple of experienced developers, so a CTO and a tech lead, or a software house that would
Hmm.
believe in the project and basically jump on board with us. And you have to pitch
Hmm.
again and again to different places. We were part of some business angel
Yeah.
networks and things like that. And just like most of the entrepreneurs, I wouldn't say that it was something that was perfectly drawn and the steps were perfectly structured. It's a matter of luck. So you pitch at the right moment, at the right person that has, the right finances and the right time for you. And this is what happened. And our partner, DataXDev, they are still an Ukrainian software house, and they have their branch as well in Poland. And they basically heard about our project. We presented everything that we wanted to go into the smart city sector and develop that tool as a smart city tool, connecting all those stakeholders, and they loved it. and so far so good. For over 4 years after, we are still partners, and we're still, working together and going strong. So it's a little bit of everything, I would say.
And I think it's really important what you mentioned before that I mean, that is the right timing. Sometimes good businesses or good ideas come and go, and finding a right partner, it's a bit like a
Yeah,
marriage. You need to find the good timing, the good
yeah,
person, the good opportunity, the good mindset at the right
yeah.
time, and then if everything fit, then it can work. Obviously, there is a lot of work around that, but timing is also a crucial point there.
Absolutely, and I think and Billy, I would like to jump on one thing you said, which is so true, and I believe this is from the fact that you are an experienced entrepreneur as well. So it's that entrepreneurship and finding the proper co-founder is a lot like a marriage, and just like a marriage, it's a lot about the bad times, not about the good times. Because when everything is good, right? Business is going strong, everyone is happy, and so on. But are your co-founders basically are able to stand next to you and hold your back when things are going down, when they are going south? Are they able to pick you up? Are they not there just only to deliver their task, right? So it's really like a marriage, and I agree with you 200% on this one.
And actually, you had a strong challenge because, as you said before, you went through pandemic together. So how was that during the time?
That was not our first try into going into hardship together, because the first issue that we faced in Poland was the teacher
Mhm.
strike. So for 20 years, so just to give you a little bit of a history lesson, for 20 years it was no teacher strike that ever happened in Poland. Of course, we are very used to it in France. This is like
Mhm.
a yearly thing.
Yeah.
um, but
It's your Friday.
exactly, that's, it's casual, right? Casual striking. But
Yeah.
in Poland it never happened for
Yeah.
20 years, and we were about to onboard
Mhm.
a big city in Poland. Teacher strike hit, and as we deal with public authorities and schools and so on, then the project just collapsed. And that was the very first hardship that we had to do together. And we basically saw that those guys were still there with us, and they were still like pushing, and they were still like, okay guys, let's regroup and go towards another path until this path reopens, right? So when pandemic arrived, the most stressful aspect was that we were not making any more money, right? That was the most stressful aspect, right? um, no more facilities, no more bookings, no more money, as simple as that. So how we did it, we were like, okay, let's scale down costs, right? And we were a very small team, mostly about co-founders and a couple of extra people helping us, but it was not a big team at that time, right, when it came. So we just basically took a step back, focused on the technology, prepared a more structured way to attack the market, because you are on the fast pace in a startup, and sometimes you don't have the time to sit and restructure what you're doing. So that time gave us that opportunity, and we took it that way, and we came out of it with a better tool after a few months of being closed, and a better way to tackle the market. And as I said, our status changed on the market towards those public authorities. So the acceleration came together with this reopening of the, I would say, the life. And at the same time, the product was getting better, because we took that time not to cry, but to actually try to be be productive. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I think that's what makes, the success or the failure of a startup or any project. As you mentioned, when there's a hard time, how do you react to it? How do you try to find opportunities to stay stronger, to strengthen your, I don't know, some aspect of your businesses. And I think, I really admire that in you, and also in every, success stories that we can hear. Maybe going to this direction, can you share with us some actually good success or example that happened during your journey?
Yeah, of course. The biggest success that I might say, I can say proud of, but it's a day-to-day thing, is that there
Hmm.
is a French-Algerian dude from Paris that actually had the idea
Hmm.
to create a smart city system that would interconnect different stakeholders and do a B2G type of business. And actually, our pride is that we are onboarding cities, which is crazy. It's insane, because when we started, we're thinking, okay, we're going to focus on the venues, and more venues we get, it's going to create a
Hmm.
network effect, and that will basically push
Yeah.
us towards a bigger scale. But after some time, we realized that, yeah, no, what we needed to do after proving the model on the venues, we needed to go sign deals with the cities. And this is what Ballsquad is doing. We're signing deals with the cities. So right now we are in 7 cities in Poland, and which means that we are talking directly to president of cities that are elected by people. And then we are here to
Wow.
propose them a solution that they can then bring to their citizens, and show them that, okay, they are doing something for them as well, to make their life easier, to push for a better life
Yeah.
and a healthier life in the city. So I would say that this is the our biggest pride to the whole team, is that we are in a sector that is very complicated, that is not straightforward, that
Yeah, it
requires
is.
a lot of tricks and tips, and we're still alive and going, forward. So I would say that's the proudest part of my one of the proudest part of my job. Yeah.
And you can be proud. Congratulations on that. And I
Thank you.
hope a lot more successes. But
Yeah.
to every successes, there is some fails. And it doesn't mean that it's bad, but we all face that. So
Mhm.
can you share some of the fails that you had on the road and that you learned from?
I would say that one thing that I learned through the process, where if I was to count all the failures, I think we would need a 24-hour type of podcast, right? Because we made more failures than we made successes, to be honest. But it's
Yeah.
just one thing through that is that, for us the failures are pretty straightforward. It's basically going to talk to public authorities, offering our system, trying to basically be an added value to what they do, and they do not understand it, or we do not express it well, and basically we get rejected, which happened countless amount of time, right? But the beauty of our business is that people are changing a lot. So basically the doors are never closed forever. As soon as we prove ourselves in a city nearby, then the city that says no reopens. So the thing that I understood very quickly on with all these failures that we had to go through during those 4 years and something was flexibility. Was the fact that we have to understand who we are delivering to, right? And we are delivering, in our case, to public authorities, right? So we cannot come with one model, one size fits all. It's like we are trying to fit squares into circles. It doesn't work. So we understand with those failures that public authorities and public infrastructures by default, they are designed to be specific to the place and to the citizens they are serving. So our job is to adapt our technology and our service around them, and not push them into our processes, but actually adapt our processes around them. And one, I would say, learning that came from all this process is that in any business, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I know and from my decade of experience now into that, into, I would say, yeah, the professional world, is basically that there is no silver bullet in business. So that silver bullet that's gonna kill the werewolf. This bullet doesn't exist. But what kills the werewolf is 1,000 of lead bullets. So the whole process was, okay, every failure means for us that we are not taking the proper path, and we should deviate a little bit, right or left, right, to go around that hole or that wall or whatever you call it, right, that obstacle that you have to jump over. And that creates basically for you many different little successes. And when you put them together, then it becomes a cannon, and then it kills everything. But it's an ongoing process. Yeah.
I, yes, I love this metaphor. A bit violent, but I love this metaphor.
Yeah, that's sorry
No,
for
but
that. It's me.
I'm joking. No, I'm teasing you. It's a wonderful metaphor, and it explains really in a nice, a nice way how it works, and I totally agree with that. And actually, one of the pillar in doing a business is to find the right people. So, can you tell us how do you surround yourself? What kind of talent do you have? What kind of people do you hire? What's your team you look like?
To build our team is that we take advantage of what the market is offering to us. And being in Europe, we have access to many different tools for recruitment, not only via LinkedIn or things like that, but there are programs that are supporting young companies or even bigger ones to access talents across Europe. And not only, actually, you can even go beyond the European borders and be able to use Erasmus Plus internship, EU for EU, and many other basically grants and programs that allow you to bring people in for a few months, test them, while they are compensated financially, allow them to basically test if whatever they studied or whatever they want to do basically matches their expectation. And at the same time, for you, it enables you to see the real life performance of those talents. And based on that, you can basically pick and choose, um, or of course, they have to agree to stay, the talents that make sense for you to keep pushing with you the project. And we always rely on two aspects when we are basically um, hiring people. We always tell them the same things. The first thing is that we don't know what we don't know. So the only way to push forward, it's for them to keep opening doors and for us to discovering new things and to push us to the next step. And the second part is that we do not do rocket science and we do not do medicine. So if there is a mistake that is made, no one gonna die. So the only thing we have to do is to be conscious about our mistakes and be able to act on them fast. And basically, that brings you more experience very quickly because you're not afraid to deliver, um, because it doesn't have such a big consequence as if you were doing rocket science or medicine, right? So that's the principles that we build our teams with.
I mean, that's a great approach. And the way of testing them and giving them this opportunity, I think it's also a nice way for both parts. But I can imagine that you receive a lot of CVs. So how do you see motivation on paper before inviting them to join you?
It's hard to say because of course there is so many articles about HR and how do you hire and what type of questions you ask and so on. And I would say that it's a very personal aspect, right? To have 20 something people in the team, we had in total and mostly across the last year close to 40 people that came through our company. And basically you just learn, as I said, we learn with them as well. So we learn, which profiles actually are matching us, what type of behaviors we're expecting. But this is only something that comes out of experience. So I wouldn't say that the CV really matters, but you want to see some structure, first of all, because that's the first way to screen. But it's a very subjective type of process. Really, if anyone tells you that they have an equation that A plus B equals C and it works each time, I would love to see it and I would love to use it, because so far it's a lot a matter of you being the at the helm and the captain of the ship. You understand who you need next to you to be able to basically navigate that ship to destination. And this is something that you acquire with years and with time and with just tries. That's it.
So I mean, that's a really nice story, but we'll need to wrap up.
Mhm.
Maybe before ending this session, can you tell us what's the future for Ballsquad and for Walid?
I would say that for us would be to keep going fast on the Polish market and becoming the leader on the digitalization of public infrastructure, and becoming a true partner of public authorities across the country and not only on specific cities. And the very next step that we already started to explore is basically the neighboring markets, which we already started to discuss with, to see how we can adapt our system to those places, not only by changing the language of our tool, but to actually adapt our processes to them. So on the Ballsquad side, that would be what the future is holding for us, and hopefully positively. And for myself, I would say that here being in a French Tech Krakow podcast, is that we are with a group of local entrepreneurs, French and Polish, in Warsaw. We are building right now trying to launch the French Tech Warsaw, which would be basically a linked entity to the French Tech Krakow. So we can have like basically more synergy between the two biggest ecosystem in Poland, and hopefully as well push it towards the CE and even connecting with the local French tech that are all across France.
I totally believe in this philosophy, and that's also why we're doing this podcast, this European video podcast series with so many communities, because with other people mind, you can build bigger things, and I totally support that, and looking forward for this Polish synergy together.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Billy.
So thank you a lot, Walid. It was a great session.
Thank
Thank
you.
you everyone for being with us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Walid as well. The session is available on video on YouTube and audio only on all the Global podcast platform. Any last word from yourself, Walid?
My last word, no, I would just like to thank you for inviting me and for what you're doing, because guys like you and like Romain Robot, for instance, are the guys that paved the way for guys like me to come behind and basically stand on your shoulders. You have been dealing with such markets before us, and so I'm very grateful that I can basically leverage some of your experience and knowledge to push for the next generation. So thank you for that.
It's our honor, and I'm sure we can both learn from each other. So thank you again. For our audience, follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube to be updated about the next episode. And à bientôt. Bye bye.